Hi, and welcome to the 2020 Economic Recession and Preparation channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button as we go through this Monday, October 26, 2020 week for the latest financial news in the U.S. and abroad. Today, I just want to touch on briefly some news today. I'm sure many of you have seen the stock market plunge today over 650 points as record coronavirus cases spike and the lack of stimulus troubles investors. So now in Washington, D.C., everybody's scrambling to pretend like they're going to do a deal, although we know that's not going to be the case. We're not getting any stimulus throughout the remainder of this year, which is dwindling rapidly as we head toward Halloween in November and December and the holiday months. So expect more volatility in the stock market, in the housing market, in the credit market. And basically, many of these cities are just bracing for impact, cities, counties, states, because they know that money is tight and taxes are going to have to be raised after the election, regardless of who wins, to make up for the shortfall. And they're going to try to tax the super rich, the upper 1%, but they already have their money sheltered and protected in offshore island accounts and all kind of different foreign accounts. And so they're going to raise the taxes to try to squeeze blood out of a turnip. But there's only so much you can get because there's only so much money that can be made here. U.S. stocks fell sharply on Monday as investors weighed both a lack of progress on fiscal stimulus negotiations and at the same time we have this pandemic that surpassed 80,000 cases on Friday and Saturday, and 5 people in Vice President Mike Pence's inner circle tested positive for the virus. So how can we have a booming economy, supposedly, when we have 60 million unemployed, we have a coronavirus that's out of control, we have stock market that is dependent on stimulus that is not going to get. So we're looking at a long, cold, and hard winter going into the winter season. And the reality has just come in that many of these companies don't have the cash liquidity flow that we thought they did. Many of these banks do not have the cash liquidity flow that we thought they did. And now it's just beginning to show its ugly head. Oil prices tumbled as Libya signaled a production increase. They're back to increase in production now, folks. Remember they said they were going to decrease production. Now the OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum and Exporting Countries, or OPEC as is known, Libya is in that pack. They are going to increase the production. So that dropped West Texas Intermediate crude to 3.9% to $38 a barrel. Expected to go further. Brent crude, oil's international benchmark, fell to $40 a barrel. The large decline dragged energy stocks lower. Tech stocks were lower. Only thing, gold edged higher to 1908 per ounce, but that's not a lot considering. So we have a falling dollar. We have rising prices on goods and services in America. And then on top of that, we have these talks and this election that's going on. A lot of uncertainty with this election that's going on. And so we can expect a lot more volatility. We can expect this economy to be absolutely dismal. Absolutely dismal. And the reason why is because even though mortgage rates are low, people can't afford to buy houses. Rental rates are hitting the floor. And they're hoping that if President Biden gets in, that he's going to unleash a new deal like they did back in the 20s and 30s. But we just don't have that kind of money. We're already $27 trillion in debt. We've already spent past 2 coronavirus bills. That was total $6 trillion there. There's only so much that the economy can absorb. And so they're hoping that can boost the economy growth prospects beyond 2021. But many companies are saying that they expect coronavirus to be last here through 2023. That's 2 full years from now. That we're going to be dealing with not only coronavirus, but we're going to deal with a failing economy. And so even if they print up all this money, that only means a reset is coming. One economist feels that the Federal Reserve Bank could actually issue a rate hike, interest rate hikes between the year 2024 and 2025, depending on how other policies turn out, such as taxation, depending on how high they raise taxes. We don't see that. I don't see that here. I believe that they're not going to raise rates for a long time because we're already in a recession now. And now there's talk on CNBC and CNN for a double dip recession, not just for the United States, but with Europe and also of the other economies in Inter-America too as well. So the only people that's going to be doing really well through these next 5 years is the Chinese and the Russians and the India economy. Those three economies, the developing nation economies, are going to be coming up, and we're going to be going down as a result of too much debt, too much consumption, and not enough production, not enough manufacturing, not enough high-paying jobs, not enough Americans, families can afford the cost of living that we're at now, and we're living on borrowed time. Many investors fear that a Biden win could result in higher taxes and tighter regulations, which could lead to lower corporate profits and less economic growth. The bottom line is that the rich man, the ultra super rich man, the super 1%, they're not planning on losing any profits or money during this time. And so they're not going to like higher taxes and compensation and all that. They'll just keep the jobs overseas in Malaysia, in Thailand, in Singapore, in China. They're not going to bring anything back to the United States. The infrastructure is going to be crumbling here in all of these major cities, from Washington, D.C. to Houston to New York to Chicago to St. Louis to L.A. to San Francisco to Seattle. These infrastructures are going to be crumbling, and so we have to prepare ourselves for crumbling infrastructure after the election into next year and into these next 4 years into 2024 and 2025. This is what we're facing. This is the ugly truth that they don't want to tell you on TV. They should have let it drop in 2008. They did not. They papered over it, and so because of which, here we are, 13 years later, facing the pain of this depression and everything in the slowdown. Ask yourself, have you ever seen New York City shut down like this back in March? Remember how it looked back in March and April? Have you ever seen the airport shut down where air travelers and rail travelers and cruise ship travelers shut down around the world like this? It started over in China, then it spread to Italy. They became the number one country with all this pandemic stuff, and now it's over here. So we are just in the third inning of this major collapse. And so continue to prepare, continue to brace yourselves. And one of the ways you can do that is try to pay down as much small debts as you can. Even though the dollar is going to be printed into oblivion and we're going to a digital cashless society, you still want to be prepared for that transition. A lot of people say gold and silver. I don't recommend that because it's not portable. You cannot take gold and silver, physical gold and silver, with you during this time of hard time. You need to be flexible. So if I were you, I would have cash on hand, food, water. Food and water is a new currency in this new economy, regardless if we're going to a digital economy, because the Western world, meaning the United States, is not going to get the supplies from China, Thailand, and all that like they used to anymore, because it's every country for themselves. Every country is going into what's called protectionism. That means they're going to be providing resources for their own country and their own people. No longer doing trade. That's why the trade deal fell through. Have you heard any talk about a Chinese trade deal from Trump or Biden during their 3 debates that they've had these last couple of weeks? No, that's because the trade deal fell through, and every country for themselves now as we go through this worldwide depression. So try to tighten up your food, water, your security. Obviously, that's number one. And also prep up your medicine supplies, because you may not be able to get simple things like, did you know that your Tylenol, your Advil, your basic cough syrup, all that's made over in India. That's not made here. Only 10% to 15% of that stuff is made here. So it's important that you stock up on that. If you need somebody with arthritis, start getting Benadryl. Somebody with allergies, start stocking up on Imodium AD, your antidiarrheals, all of that stuff. Start stocking up on your definitely your cleaning supplies, definitely your trash bags, contractor bags. Start getting those big 30-gallon contractor bags from Home Depot or Lowe's or those hardware stores, and keep those too as well. And blue tarps. Just get a host of things, because you will not be able to get these after the end of next year, when we're going to really see the effects of this, whether it's man-made or not. This coronavirus is going to hurt supply, demand, and it's already have done so, and we're just now seeing the effects of it now. So be blessed, my friends. Stay safe. You're in my prayers, and I hope you're praying for me as well. And I'll be back with more news daily for you in due time. Take care.